We let Wolves get a point yesterday. Wolves' first point in 3 months. We let them get it. The worst team in Premier League history. 2 points yesterday. They've upped their points tally by 50% after meeting us and now on 3 points. And we couldn't beat them at home. Not only could we not beat them at home, but they were the better team. They had the better chances. People saying, oh, but Sesko should have scored this. And how many great saves did Le Mans make? And Ruben Amorim comes out after the game. We controlled the game. We did not control the game. Wolves had the higher XG. Wolves, I thought, were arguably the better team. Did the players show up? No. Was Cunha incredibly selfish? Yes. Could Sesko have scored? Yes. But we lost that game for many reasons. 1, yeah, the players definitely could have upped the intensity. 2, we have a lot of players injured. But 3, the manager is not getting the best out of this team, and that is what he's employed to do. You see versus Newcastle in that first half, we have a bit of something about us. We have a bit of something about us in that first half versus Newcastle. 4 at the back, bit of something about us. Dorgu looked good on the right wing. So we should go to Wolves with maybe this 4 at the back with Dorgu on the right wing because we saw a little bit of something versus Newcastle. Rather than building upon the positives we saw in the first half versus Newcastle, despite having all the players missing, he goes back to the same old crap we've done before. That's not worked. You know, we're missing key players. Wolves have 7 key players out because of AFCON, because of injuries, and because Andre, who started every game for them this season, is suspended. Wolves were playing a fullback in midfield. You know, people saying, well, Man United had so many players injured and Bruno's missing, Ahmad's missing, and Boomer's missing. Don't get me wrong. We had a lot of players injured, but Wolves had 7 players out for the game. You know, they did not have Andre, one of their best midfielders. They did not have Agbadou, their best centre-back. They did not have Manetzi, arguably their second best centre-back. They did not have Bellegar, one of their better players. Both Gomez's, Totti and Rodrigo Gomez, were out for Wolves. So yes, we were missing a lot of key players, but also so were Wolves. Wolves' bench was full of kids. Do you know who Ethan Sutherland is? Do you know who Sahid Olagunju is? I don't know who they are. They're kids on the Wolves bench. Wolves had as many kids as us on their bench. Wolves had as many kids as us on the pitch. Wolves had loads of kids on. Like, the only thing they had on their bench that was good was Strand Larson, and he was invisible when he came on. Wolves had as many players injured as us, as many players missing as us, had as thin a squad as us. They've got 2 points all season. They are the worst team in Premier League history. They are rock bottom for confidence. And they went to Old Trafford and arguably, I think, were probably slightly the better team. And that is concerning. Injuries or not, that is concerning. Because we have still Luke Shaw, who actually had a decent game with us overlap. Lissandro Martinez. And it didn't beat Wolves. And that was the worry. That was the big worry, you know. Someone's commented, I'm tired of United content creators fake outrage. What? We drop points to Wolves, who have 2 points this season. What is wrong with being mad about that? West Ham hadn't won a game in 10. They come to Old Trafford, they get a draw. Everton had 10 men. They come to Old Trafford, they get a win. Bournemouth haven't won any of their last 11 games. They go to Old Trafford and they get a draw. We've got 1 win in our last 5 games at Old Trafford. West Ham, Everton, and Wolves, we've dropped points to at home this season with bad performances. People are saying, oh, fans are over dramatic. Why fans outraged? Yes, we're in 6th place. Yes, we're in an okay position in the league. But if we continue like this, I don't know if we'll finish 6th. I think we probably will with the players coming back from AFCON, with Bruno coming back. I think this team is good enough to come 5th. And I think to drop points to Wolves, why are fans not allowed to be mad about that? Why are fans not allowed to be mad that we've dropped points to Wolves? Because I think that's a disgrace. I don't know what's happened to the standards in this fan base, that if you criticise the club now or you're negative after we drop points, you get called toxic, negative, fake outrage. Where are the standards gone? We're Man United. You're just going to celebrate finishing 8th because it's an improvement on 15th. No, we should be finishing higher than 8th with the money that we spent. I'm just sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. Even with missing players, you have to beat this team. If this is Crystal Palace and we draw, I'm not ranting like this. If this was Crystal Palace or Brighton and it's a 1-1 draw with the players we have missing, I'm not going to be sitting here ranting. But this is Wolves. This is a Wolves side that had as many players out as us. 3 wins in 10. 3 wins in 10. I like to be positive. You know me. On my channel, I was so positive about Ten Hag. I was so positive about everything. I fully backed Ruben Amorim the whole of last season, even when we lost the Europa League final. I fully backed Amorim because I said, give him a summer, give him some signings. And look, he has improved with signings, don't get me wrong. But I'm going to talk to you about what's annoying me about Ruben Amorim is he finds solutions like moving to a 4 at the back. We look better versus Newcastle in the first half. We can see we look better in the first half versus Newcastle in the first half, and he doesn't go back to that. He finds that Dorgu does all right on the right wing, doesn't go back to that. He's not making the players better. He's lost more games than he's won. You know, that is worrying. You know, I feel like we have a right to be annoyed. It's like all of a sudden you're toxic and you're horrible and you're negative for wanting more out of Man United, for wanting change, for wanting something better. I want Ruben Amorim to succeed. I want Ruben Amorim to prove me wrong because there's nobody in the manager market right now. There is absolutely nobody in the manager market right now. I want Ruben Amorim to succeed. I'm fed up of sacking managers. I want him to do well. I want him to succeed. But I felt that yesterday was on Ruben Amorim being a coward. 7 defenders behind the ball versus Wolves. This is Man United. I don't care that this is the worst Man United side ever. Under Ten Hag, we were complaining about how bad we were and we finished 8th. This fan base would be some people in this fan base would be happy with finishing 8th because it's an improvement on 15th. And they'll say, look, Amorim got from 15th to 8th, it's improvement. But we hounded Ten Hag out for finishing 8th. Ollie got sacked for finishing 6th. The Premier League is weak this year. The Premier League is so weak this year. Chelsea are dead. Liverpool are crap. Tottenham are crap. Newcastle are crap. There's no competition. This is our best chance to get a 4th or get a 5th. Get back in the Champions League because it's crap. The other teams are crap this season. You know, in the seasons like we finished 8th under Ten Hag, the other Premier League teams were a lot better than they are this season. We should be finishing top 6 bare minimum. We're 6th right now. But to lose more games than we've won, to have 13 wins in the whole of 2025, 13 wins and 25 games that weren't a win, it is worrying. It is worrying. I don't know why I'm not allowed to be upset or criticise the manager or criticise Man United without being called negative. I've got standards. I'm not saying sack the manager and everything gets better. No, the squad need to do better. The squad is thin. We haven't got Bruno, Ahmed and Boomer. It's difficult. But the manager's getting a lot wrong. I defended Amorim versus Bournemouth. I defended Amorim versus Villa. And I defended Amorim versus Arsenal. Because people say you just want to go at Amorim. When we lost to Arsenal, did not say a bad word about Amorim. When we lost to Villa, did not say a bad word about Amorim. When we dropped points to Bournemouth, I said, I will not be Amorim out for dropping points to Bournemouth. I thought Amorim got his approach right. But today, Amorim got it totally wrong. The lineup was terrible. No, like, the players should have done better. Don't get me wrong. But it was poor. Amorim's stubborn nature will get him sacked. He cost us the match last night with his decision to go back to 3 centre-backs when a back 4 worked in recent games. If it ain't broke, why fix it? Because he's obsessed with doing it his way. And every time he does it a different way and we look better, he's like, oh no, maybe my way isn't correct after all. But he can't... I generally feel Amorim cares more about being right than what is best for Manchester United. And this might sound like a wild opinion. When Ruben Amorim did that press conference, he was talking about how he's not changing the system because the fans and the media are telling him to change the system. He's changing the system because of injury. We saw in the 2 games that he changed the system, we looked a lot better in. But he was saying he only did that because of injuries, not because of the fan, not because of the media. I wanted to know that. And he made that clear. Which says to me, he's so bothered about what the fans and media say about him. And he's so bothered that the fans and media are saying this. And if he does this, he thinks he loses his credibility. You know, he's so stubborn. He's so stubborn that it's almost like he won't change, but will do what the fans and the media want him to do. Because what happens if the fans and the media are right? What happens if he plays Kobbie Mainoo and plays Shea Lacey and goes to a back 4 and we start winning loads of games? Then he'd have to say the fans and the media are right. So every time he does change slightly and the fans and the media look right, He won't do that the next game because there's a stubbornness of he's got to make it work his way. And that's what annoys me. It's what annoys me about Amorim. It really does. It's like you had something and you've gone back on it. Why? Look, I'm going to get into the news in a second on Amorim's comments, but I want to share this. I'm frustrated. I want Amorim to succeed, people. I do. I want him to prove me wrong. But I'm fed up. Most of the players were shocking yesterday, but it's very clear that this manager is failing to get the best out of them. First half versus Newcastle, we had a bit of a spark. We could see how much better off the players looked in the back four and Dorgu on the right. But then Amorim goes to this back five, which the players have struggled in for a year, rather than building on the slight positives in the first half versus Newcastle. We literally saw in the Newcastle game that these players looked a lot better and a lot more comfortable in the back four. The first half versus Newcastle was a back four. The second half versus Newcastle was a back five. We looked a lot better in a back four. This team looked a lot better, a lot more comfortable in the back four. We had a bit of spark. But he doesn't continue that. Dorgu looked better on the right. He doesn't continue that. Back to Dorgu on the left. Back to the back five. Back to doing it my way. You know? We lost to Arsenal, Villa, and I said that was not on Amorim. I think we were unlucky. Not every loss has been on Amorim. But we dropped points to Brentford, Fulham, West Ham and Wolves and Everton. And all of those points being dropped has been down to his bad management. He brings on a centre-back when we're 1-1 versus West Ham. We play Everton, who went down to 10 men 10 minutes into the game, and he only makes defensive substitutions. And when we need control in the game, and Maino brings control, he leaves Maino on the bench and brings on Agate. His poor in-game management dropped us points in these games. Unai Emery gets us 3 points versus Everton with his in-game management, probably gets us 3 points versus West Ham, and probably gets us 3 points versus Wolves, which would see us on would see us on 7 more points. A different manager who could see out a game would see us on 7 more points. Drop points to those teams at home. At home, people. He's all poor in-game management. And some people will say but the players let Amorim down. And look, Cunha was a disgrace. Sesko could have scored. Yeah, a lot of the players are bad. But to be honest, the reason I'm frustrated with Amorim, and the reason Amorim is getting more stick from me than the players, who were also a disgrace in not winning second balls, is, to be honest, because I think Amorim is letting the players down with his system. We saw that the players looked better in a back four. We saw that Dorgu does better here. This player does better here. This player does better here. But Amorim won't do that. He keeps going back to his way, which is not making the players better. His way is making the players worse. So even though the players have been bad, it is on Amorim to platform them to make them better. And we saw versus Newcastle, we looked better in that first half. He doesn't go back to that. And that's my frustration with Amorim. I will be Amorim in if he changes, he adapts, and he looks to platform these players. I will be Amorim in if we start getting results because he changes and he adapts and he stops being stubborn. If he changes, he adapts, he stops being stubborn, I will completely change my stance on Ruben Amorim if we start getting results and he changes. But if he keeps continuing this, it's going to be the same win 2. All the fans get excited. Look, I told you Amorim's got something. Lose 2. All the fans get annoyed. Win 2, lose 2. It's going to be the same. We win 2, but then we lose 2. Then we win 2, then we lose 2. And it's inconsistent. It's going to be the same with that if he continues with this. And people are saying, but he didn't have Mbeumo. He didn't have Ahmed. He didn't have Bruno. He had Mbeumo, Ahmed and Bruno versus Everton, and we still lost to 10 men Everton. 10 men Everton, Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo Mount. We had Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo Mount versus 10 man Everton, and we still lost. We still failed to beat West Ham without Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo. So you can say we're missing Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo. What do you expect him to do? But we couldn't beat West Ham with Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo. We lost to a 10-man Everton with Bruno, Ahmed and Mbeumo. So yes, we missed a lot of key players, but all the other games we dropped points in at home, we had those players. We had Bruno, we had Ahmed, we had Mbeumo, we had all his best players, and he couldn't beat West Ham. And he couldn't beat Everton with 10 men. That's what worries me. That is what worries me. Look, some people say I'm with the manager. We put kids on that can't perform under pressure, but he put the wrong kid on. This is what annoyed me about Amorim, is he put the wrong kid on. Like, you take Xerxes off to play Fletcher at right wing. Fletcher's a centre mid. Fletcher is a centre mid. Why not Shea Lacey? Like, this is what I mean. He loves playing players out of position. Every player at Man United sees to play out of position. He takes Bruno, the best 10 in football, and makes him a number 6. He puts Xerxes on the right wing. He's turned Ahmad into a wing back. Mazraoui, a back 4 player, into a wing back or a centre back. Luke Shaw, a left back, into a centre back. Dorgu a right wing and a left back into a left wing back. Ruben Amorim doesn't play any players in their position. Ruben Amorim is not getting the best out of our players because he's not putting the right players in the right positions. You have Shea Lacey on the bench, who has a higher ceiling than Jack Fletcher. And look, Jack Fletcher works hard off the ball, but Jack Fletcher's not a right winger. Jack Fletcher spent the last 10 minutes in central midfield, and I remembered he was on the pitch. When Jack Fletcher was playing on the right wing, I didn't even know he was on the pitch. Yeah? Amorim's in-game management was poor. People are saying he had nothing to do, he had to bring on the youth. Wolves had to bring on the youth. Wolves had nobody on the bench. People are saying, oh, but he had to bring on the youth aren't ready. Amorim's in-game management is the worst I've seen from a Man United manager. And this is coming from me, who gave Ten Hag a lot of criticism for bringing on Forson over Amad Diallo. He takes Xerxes off after scoring, and I get why he took Xerxes off. Xerxes was poor, but if you're going to take Xerxes off, why for Jack Fletcher? Xerxes not a right winger. Xerxes was poor. He got the goal, but he was poor. I get why he took Xerxes off. But if you're going to take Xerxes off to put Jack Fletcher on the right wing, you might as well have put Shea Lacey on the right wing because he's an actual right winger. Jack Fletcher's a centre mid. Jack Fletcher, I don't like to speak bad of academy players. He was lost on that right wing. He looked much better the 10 minutes he got in central midfield, but he was lost on that right-hand side. What? Bring on Shea Lacey. He brings on Mantato. Good to see Mantato get a debut, but everybody knows that Shea Lacey, if you watch the academy, is a level ahead. Shea Lacey should be the academy player coming on. And people say, oh, Alice, but you've been begging him to play academy players. He plays academy players, and look how far off they are. No, the only academy players I've been wanting him to play is Maino, because the midfield is crap, and it was to bring on Shea Lacey over a centre-back when we're chasing a goal. Yeah? That's what it was. He takes off Xerxes for Fletcher. People say, but Amorim, look at the subs Amorim made. Look, Jack Fletcher's not good enough. What can Amorim do? Play Shea Lacey. What's the point of bringing Jack Fletcher on at right wing when you have an actual right winger in Shea Lacey on the bench? Oh, but Alice, you've been asking him to play the academy. No, I've just been saying when we're 1-1, instead of putting a centre-back on, maybe he should throw an academy attacker and take a defender off. I'm not saying he should play the academy players. I'm just saying if we're 1-1 and he brings on a centre-back and Shea Lacey's on the bench, I'd rather him take off a centre-back and bring on Shea Lacey and we go to a back four and we try and beat West Ham and we try and beat Everton. That's what I was saying. I was calling for Lacey at right wing when we had no other attackers fit. And I've been calling for Maino. I haven't been calling him to start this youth player, that youth player. But Lacey's a right winger and he brings on Fletcher and plays him right wing. Dorgu played well on the right wing. You could have adapted and moved Dorgu back to right wing, but you brought Fletcher on the right wing. Bringing Fletcher on in the centre of the park, I get it. But bringing Fletcher on the right wing, it made no sense. It made no sense. Too many people in this fan base prioritise accepting failure, protecting their favourite players and managers, then looking at the bigger pictures, those owners are incompetent and the manager ain't it. I agree. Biggest issue is the owners. The manager needs to do better. Some of the players are crap, but the ownership's the biggest issue. He always brings on a centre-back and I don't get it. You know, we're sixth. We look better this season. There's been progress this season, but we still have lost 14 and 113 in 2025. I'm fed up of excuses for this manager. You know? Great show and analysis, Alice. Love your enthusiasm. No bias, just facts. Thank you and Happy New Year. Appreciate that. Look, you could be Amorim in, you can be Amorim out. I don't care if people are Amorim in. I don't care if people are Amorim out. People have the right to any opinion they want, you know? But what I don't like is when people go to you and go, how dare you be Amorim out? You're toxic. You're the problem. It's like, no, we've lost more games than we've won. If you're Amorim in, that's absolutely fair. If you're Amorim in, that's absolutely fair because we've sat so many managers that the cycle, you know, needs to be stopped. And we are sixth in the league. So if you're Amorim in, that's fair. I'm not going to judge you for being Amorim in. If you're backing the manager, I think it's great to get behind the manager. But it's when the people that are blindly backing the manager then say the people not backing the manager are the problem is what I don't like. Because if we start saying anything negative about the manager, we get labelled a problem. No, we've lost more games than we've won. We've lost more games than we've won. We have a negative approach. We had 7 players behind the ball versus Wolves. We got outplayed by the worst team in Premier League history. That is bad. So you can back the manager all you want. You can say, let's get behind the manager. I want United to do well. We need to stop sacking managers. We're sixth. And if you're behind the manager, you're more than welcome to do that. Because I think it's good to get behind the manager and it's good to be positive. It's good to believe. But there's some people that are so behind the manager that they think anyone that is the manager out is wrong. And I don't think there's a wrong answer. I think you could be Amorim in and right and you could be Amorim out and right. You know, it's opinion. There's no right or wrong answer. But the facts are there. The standards are bad. The performances are bad. We should be winning more games, players injured or not. I think that this team could do better under a different manager. And that's why I'm negative about Amorim, because I see little signs in the back four. I see things Amorim can build upon, and then he never does it the next game. And then he goes back to the same old crap that he's been doing for over a year that isn't working because he's so stuck on making the system work. And it's frustrating. And the defensive substitutions are frustrating. And you bring on an academy player and you play him out of position. You're so obsessed with your system that you keep just bringing on players and putting them in the wrong position and wondering why you're not getting the best out of players. You know? It frustrates me. Amorim saying that we will be better with certain players is deluded. When we have most of our players available, we still lost to a 10-man Everton and drew with West Ham and Bournemouth. I do think with Bruno and Boomer and Amad, we probably win that game versus Wolves. We got too much quality not to. But we didn't beat Everton and we didn't beat West Ham with all of the players that are missing available. Do you know what I mean? Look, I predicted Villa to beat Arsenal. I was very wrong about that. Amorim will be set by April when we don't get Europe. I mean, the thing is, we should be able to get Europe. Everyone's like, we're sick, we're doing well, Alice, calm down. We're sick because everyone else is crap. I generally think if we actually got our stuff together, we could sneak fourth this season. But I don't know if Amorim's able to do that tactically. I think we're sick because everyone else is bad. I don't think we're sick because we're so much better. I think everyone has been bad this season. We are better. We have made progress. We have a better team. Don't get me wrong. And you've got to give Amorim some credit for improving us. But I believe generally this team could be playing so much better than it is. And this team could have beat Wolves with a different manager, with a different setup. I believe Amorim got it wrong. Amorim lost to Arsenal, he got it right. Amorim lost to Villa, he got it right. Amorim drew to Bournemouth, he got most of it right, yeah? But there's a lot of games where we've dropped points, where yes, the players haven't been good enough, yes, the players missed a chance, but Amorim has got it wrong. And Amorim has got it wrong too many times because it's in the second half when he needs to make substitutions to change the game around, when we're chasing a goal, that he still continues with this back five, 7 defensive players on the pitch. He's got it wrong a lot. And I sometimes am just getting fed up of Amorim because then he makes comments. Amorim I used to like. Amorim used to be really likeable with his comments after the match, but he's now making comments after the Wolves game like we controlled the game. We did not control the game versus Wolves. Wolves had the higher XG. What Amorim said after Wolves was worrying. Any top proper big club, he would have been gone. Like, I know that we need to end the cycle of sacking managers, but he would be gone at a bigger club. He doesn't know how to make positive changes. Yes, Ruben Amorim needs a midfielder. Yes, the team is very thin. Yes, I'm not saying that Ruben Amorim should do miracles, and we have improved, and Ruben Amorim has got things right. But ultimately, we see a spark in the back four in the first half versus Newcastle. Dorgu does well on the right, and we don't see that again versus Wolves. And I just look at these players, and I believe these players are playing poorly because the manager is unable to get the best out of them. And the manager's job is to get the best out of the players. The manager's job is to get the best out of the players. It's a weak league. And we have an opportunity to do something in the league this season because it's weak. And I feel like we could be doing so much better. We should have got 3 points versus West Ham. We should have got 3 points versus Everton. We should have got 3 points versus Wolves. If we get 3 points versus Everton, West Ham and Wolves, we have 7 more points. We have 7 more points and we're in 4th. If we could beat Everton, West Ham and Wolves at home, we're in 4th place. And I think a good manager with the players we had would have beaten Everton, West Ham and Wolves at home. That's what worries me. Thank you for the super chat. United has finished. Glory days are over. Us rivals. I don't think we're finished. I think we've got some really good players. And I think we've got a chance to get Champions League football and build upon that in the transfer window. We need some midfielders. But it is worrying how we've let the standards drop so much that a lot of this fan base would accept a 7th or 8th place finish and back Ruben Amorim if he finished 7th or 8th. When I think that's disgrace. I think we need to get top 6. I've looked at the league. I've looked at how weak everyone is. I think top 6 with 1 game a week for the money that's been spent, we have to get. The good news is we're not losing so many. We're drawing a lot. The bad news is he's a young manager. He's not very adaptable. No, we should not sack him without a complete season to reflect on. I understand why people think like that. I understand why people are like, let's just give him the whole season, see what he can do. Because there's no, like, if we're going to sack Ruben Amorim, who are we going to bring in right now? So I get the stance of, let's just give him the season. Let's just see what happens. He's a young manager. This is his first season with actual players in, because his second season in his first season he came in mid-season. So this is his first actual season. I get that 100%. But I do just look out there and think he could be doing so much more with this squad. I think there's an opportunity to get Champions League football. Could another manager come in and do that? Our build-up was terrible and he took Xerxes off as good close control. Yeah, look, Xerxes was not great. Xerxes was not given the energy. But Jack Fletcher was a ghost. And I don't like to speak bad of a young player because it's not his fault. He was thrown in and out of position. But he was a ghost. You know, you can't tell me that bringing Jack Fletcher on for Xerxes was a good choice. It wasn't a good choice. It wasn't a good choice. If he was going to bring anyone for Xerxes, it should have been Shea Lacey. It should have been Shea Lacey. We needed runners. We need someone that could dribble with the ball. Well, that's Shea Lacey. We need a right winger. Well, that's Shea Lacey. That's not Jack Fletcher. That's what annoys me about Ruben Amorim. Is we all know Shea Lacey's a right winger and Jack Fletcher's a centre mid. So why are you bringing on a centre mid to play right wing when you've got a very good right winger on the bench? Everyone else in that situation would bring on Shea Lacey and not Jack Fletcher if you want a right winger. But he brings on the wrong players, plays them out of position as well. That's what confuses me. Like, why are you bringing on players out of position? Because he's not getting the best out of the players. He's starting to wind up the players. You can see that. And look, I think Ruben Amorim's the type to say, look, I brought in Jack Fletcher. I was right about the academy. Ha, 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 ha. It's like, no, you brought on the wrong academy player and played him in the wrong position. Amorim is not able to improve players. We cannot beat smaller teams under Ruben Amorim. We can beat the bigger teams. We can't beat smaller teams. West Ham, Bournemouth, Wolves. We cannot beat the smaller teams under Amorim. The fans are booing Amorim. He's gone back to a back five. He's gone back to a defensive approach against the worst team in Prem history. He's saying stuff like we were controlling the game after the match, which is a straight up lie. Amorim comes out after the match and goes, we controlled the match. No, we didn't control the match. Wolves were the better side. Wolves had 7 players out. Wolves had the better XG. Both teams are missing players due to injuries. You know, we had Bruno and AFCON players versus Everton, Bournemouth, and we still dropped points. Everton, Bournemouth, West Ham, we had Bruno and the AFCON players, and we still dropped points. So you can't we can't keep saying, oh, if he had all of his players, he would have won. Well, he might have not. Lots of things worked well in the first half versus Newcastle, but he didn't do any of them in the Wolves game. He could have played a back four, but he said because Wolves is midfield, he went to a back five. But Wolves had Andre missing. He was suspended. It was cowardly. Had Dorgo as a good game at right wing, you move him back to the left, you don't play him right wing again. The subs made us worse. His in-game management, his subs, his setup was wrong. He was overcomplicating it. The players were rubbish, but we saw in a back four versus Newcastle, the players looked a lot better. So we can say the players were rubbish, the players need to do better. But I think Amorim is one of the reasons that the players are looking bad. So that's why I'm more critical of Amorim. You could tell the players are done with the system. You could tell the players are done with the system because they look so much more brighter and effective in a back four, and he brings them back to a back five, which those players do not get. Those players do not understand. The players are done with it. Cunha looked fed up. Cunha was pissing me off yesterday, but he was trying to do it all himself. He was being so selfish. He should have released the ball quicker, but he was fed up. He didn't trust the system. He didn't trust his team. He wanted to do it all himself. Dorgu plays well at right wing, gets moved to left wing back. Jack Fletcher comes on, has played out of position. Xerxes has played out of position. Delo has played out of position. Luke Shaw has been played out of position at times this season. So many players are being played out of position to accommodate this system that has got us more losses than wins in 2025. If this system was fantastic and you're playing players out of position to accommodate the system because the system works, that's fine. But when the system has lost more games than it's won in 2025, why are we playing so many players out of position so we stick with this system rather than changing the system and playing players to their strength and in their position because the system for a year has lost more games than it has won? But you have to stick with your system. So you have to bring on this player and play him out of position so you stick with your system, which has not succeeded in the Premier League. You know, what was all about trying to be proven right about going to back five. I actually think it is. I generally believe, and people might call me nuts, but I think Amorim is so stubborn, he wants to be proven right about this back five. You look at Amorim's comments in the press conference when he got complimented for moving to a back four, and he kept going on and on and on that he's gone to a back four because of injuries, not because the media want him to, not because any of that. He will play whatever formation he wants. I think Amorim went to a back five because he thought, I'm going to win in a back five so I can say to the media, look, it's not the formation, we won in the back five, we win in the back four. Amorim cares more about not being proven wrong and media perception than actually getting results for Man United. Ruben Amorim would rather keep going with a back five and not play a back four because then the media will go, look, all you had to do is change to a back four a year ago and look how much better we are. Ruben Amorim could change to a back four, we could win 6 games in a row. You never know, I'm not saying that we would, but he wouldn't like that because then everyone would say, look, you should have gone to a back four earlier, the media were right, the fans were right. I think there's a stubbornness in Ruben Amorim. Maybe I'm absolutely waffling, but I think there's a stubbornness in Amorim where I think he's trying to be proven right about this back five. You look at his comments in the press conference, how defensive he got. I feel like he's so desperate to be proven right about this back five because everyone keeps saying go to a back four and we go to back four, we look better. And he's saying, well, that's not the case. I do. And it's the same with the academy. Why bring Jack Fletcher on instead of stay at Shea Lacey and play Jack Fletcher in Shea Lacey's position? because I feel like Ruben Amorim wants to be able to say after the game, look, I told you the academy players aren't ready. Look, I told you it's not about the formation. I feel like Ruben Amorim cares more about being proven right. I think he generally cares more about being proven right than what's best for this team. And I don't like that attitude in a Man United manager. You know? Look, Man United need midfielders. Ruben Amorim needs midfielders. Players are missing at AFCON. Bruno was missing. It is difficult for Amorim. But this is Wolves. If we draw 1-1 to Crystal Palace and play like this, it's fine. But this is Wolves. This is statistically the worst team ever in Premier League history. This is a championship level team who had loads of players missing, who are also playing academy players. I expect better. I expect better. I want Ruben Amorim to succeed. I'm fed up of sacking managers, but this manager is not doing a good job. He's not, doesn't mean he can't do a good job. He can make substitutions that are better. He can make tactical changes that are better, but he won't because he's stubborn. And Ruben Amorim's stubbornness will get him sacked. Ruben Amorim's stubbornness will get him sacked. I get why Xerxes was taken off. I don't get why he was taken off for Jack Fletcher, though. Amorim said this. On Xerxes' substitution, we were running around trying to get hold of the ball. We were struggling with their midfielders, and sometimes you can attack better with less strikers. We played with 3 strikers, and sometimes that's not the best thing to attack well. We're 1-1 versus Wolves. He takes off the goal scorer and an attacking player for a midfielder. So 1-1 versus Wolves, you take off Xerxes for a way more defensive substitution. If we're 2-0 up versus Wolves, it makes more sense. But we're 1-1 versus Wolves, you take off Xerxes for a more defensive substitution in an academy player that is then played out of position. Xerxes didn't have a good first half, but he scored the goal. He was going into the game. And you're saying, you know, we're struggling to hold the ball. Xerxes can hold the ball better than Jack Fletcher. I like Jack Fletcher. He's great in the academy. But Xerxes can hold the ball a lot better than Jack Fletcher. So Ruben Amorim taking off Xerxes to bring Jack Fletcher on out of position to hold the ball, which he did not do. That is on Ruben Amorim. That's up. Xerxes was unhappy on the bench. And I feel like Xerxes become a scapegoat under Ruben Amorim. Xerxes and Maino are Ruben Amorim's scapegoats. When things go wrong, he blames them. It was a defensive sub. You were playing Fletcher out of position. Your subs were poor. And I agree with Gary Neville. I actually agree with Gary Neville. When I see that Man United go back to 3 at the back after 5 minutes tonight, I'm thinking, no, Ruben, why have you done that? The manager has to look at it and think, I got it wrong. But he's not. He's coming out and defending himself and saying all this and that we played well. You know, it's his stubbornness is what worries me. We lost to Grimsby. We couldn't beat Wolves. We let Ange Postecoglou win a trophy who's been sacked twice since he won a trophy. And we let Tottenham win the first trophy in so long. You know, this is Jose at the end, but without the trophies. It's just bizarre choices. Rather than trying to win, I think it's right doing about... I feel like Amorim cares more about trying to be proven right than actually winning. He's just going to keep going with this back 5 until he's proven right, rather than change and win some games, because then he'd have to admit he got it wrong for the first year. Yeah, I just feel like Amorim is just messing about a bit. This is not the Portuguese league. This is the Premier League. This system might work in the Portuguese league. It doesn't mean it's going to work in the Premier League. Pep's had 3-4 different systems in the Premier League. Klopp had 3-4 different systems in the Premier League. Amorim can't expect to go to the Premier League, have this system and play this system for 20 years and it work. Fergie changed system over time. Pep's changed system so many times. The best managers in the Premier League keep changing and adapting the system away and playing, and they change their players' strengths. Pep adapted in January to Marmoush so he could get Marmoush in the team, and Man City went from 10th to 4th or 3rd. Pep's adapted to get the best out of Ray and Shirky. The best managers adapt to get the best out of their players so they can get the best possible league position. That's what Pep did last year. That's what Klopp did in the years past. Amorim won't adapt for any player. Amorim keeps doing it his way. He only adapts when he needs to. He keeps doing it his way. And if he's not going to adapt to get the best out of players, if he's not going to adapt for players, he's not going to succeed, because that's what the Premier League is about. That's what the Premier League is about. And the problem is he makes all these stupid comments. We struggled throughout the match. We lacked creativity, but we knew it would be a different game than Newcastle. The energy was also different during the match. If you watched the game, we had chances, but the fluidity wasn't there. We lacked energy, 100%. We lacked intensity from the players, 100%. We lacked creativity. If we lack creativity, why are you sticking with a back 5 and not bringing on creative players and not having more attacking substitutes? You know, we lack creativity as well. Alice flip-flops like crazy. She was on the Amorim train and will hop back on after a few wins. I won't. I've been Amorim out since Brentford. And I haven't flipped once. I was Amorim in and I was back in Amorim, and I had a rant about Amorim versus Grimsby, and I backed Amorim to Brentford. Then I said, guys, I'm officially Amorim out. I was Amorim in the whole time, then I was Amorim out, and I haven't been Amorim in again. I've not flip-flopped. I've said I'd like Ruben Amorim to succeed. I'd like to be able to change my mind on Ruben Amorim. If Ruben Amorim changes formation, I will, and we start getting some results, and he changes system, we start getting some results, I could change my mind on him. But I'm hammering out because he won't adapt and he's stubborn. You know, I want him to succeed. I want to be proven wrong by Amorim. But I was hammering him for a very long time, nearly a year. Got fed up after Brentford and said, no, I'm hammering out now. I've seen enough. I know I said I'd wait till Christmas, but I said I've seen enough. I'm hammering out now. I've not flip-flopped between. I've said after some games like Villa, guys, don't criticise Amorim. That was not on Amorim. I can be hammering out, but say Bournemouth wasn't Amorim's fault. Villa wasn't Amorim's fault. Arsenal wasn't Amorim's fault. I've defended Amorim in some games where I felt that he shouldn't have got stick and he got it right. But I just think today he got it wrong. He got it wrong, you know? And it's not about just changing formation. It's a lot of other things that need to change, but he did get it wrong. Anyway, people, I'm going to wrap up today's live show here, but the players look fed up. The players look done with the system. What Amorim's saying is scary, you know, making comments. I think that it's, you know, it's just scary, like saying we controlled the game versus Wolves, but we didn't control the game versus Wolves. His comments on Xerxes, taking Xerxes off, made no sense when Xerxes can hold the ball. His comments like, I took Xerxes off because we needed to hold the ball better when Xerxes was holding the ball, worries me. His comments that he thought we controlled the game worries me. His comments worry me. They really do. But anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye.